On. आज हम कुछ ग्लोबल स्ट्रेटेजिक हॉटस्पॉट्स के बारे में बात करेंगे और ये बातचीत होगा विद जनरल हसनैन, a conversation on global strategic hotspots. At the outset, the 5 hotspots we're going to talk. We start with Kashmir, go to Iran, Gaza, Ukraine, and we'll finally wind up at Taiwan, right? And we'll see what each are and what are the complexities, because these are the hotspots which are heating up the conflict scenario. With this, let me welcome General Hasnain. Sir, good evening, and how's Delhi weather?
Well, Jai Hind to everyone, and it's nice to be getting baked for some time after being frozen in January. So I'm thawing myself out and being very positive about it.
All right, sir. So Delhi's weather doesn't need a hotspot. It's a hotspot on its
It's
own.
a hotspot by itself. But you see, आज का जो unique program आप कर रहे हैं, it's important for people to remember. Someone may just ask a question on whether POK is really a hotspot or not. In Indian context of geopolitics, of course, POK will always remain a hotspot. So I thought it's necessary to clarify this. And secondly, these 5 spots you have chosen are all very complex in their own right. And it's not easy to dwell on them. We are going to try and dwell 10 minutes on each of them, and we'll try and pick out the main issues concerned there. But I think this is a very unique thing which you have started today, of looking at multiple issues in a single chat in an evening.
Yeah, actually, sir, what happened was, मैं सबको भी बताना चाहता हूँ, आज हम कारगिल के बारे में बात करना चाहते थे. When General Hasnain wrote a wonderful article on POK, and comparing POK and JNK and elections and all that, I said, okay, let's do that. But then in between, what happened in Iran with the president's untimely death, it became hot. And then Gaza is already on the boil. And Taiwan, something happened. A new president has taken over almost in the same time period. And Russia has restarted its offensive in, northern Ukraine. So I said, look, let's get the whole thing going and understanding what it is. But like what General Hasnain said, मैं तो बिल्कुल मानता हूँ, focus is JNK and POK and the entire Kashmir question, because that's central to India. So I request you to start there and take it on.
Well, POK, as you said yourself, Avi, it will always be an eternal issue of interest to us. A lot of people are thinking कि जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के अंदर आर्टिकल 370 को साइन करने के बाद स्टेबिलिटी काफ़ी हद तक आई है, नॉर्मल सी की तरफ हम बढ़ रहे हैं. जम्मू लोकसभा के इलेक्शंस जो है उसमें टर्नआउट अच्छा हो रहा है, 59% कल हुआ है बारामूला में. अनंतनाग में मुझे जरा थोड़ा अंदेशा है कि कम होगा. अनंतनाग इज ट्रेडिशनली हॉटस्पॉट, और ये इस दफे अनंतनाग की जो वो है constituency, it is straddling the Pir Panjal. It has gone into Rajouri after the delimitation. तो इसको ख्याल रखना चाहिए सबको who are observing Jammu and Kashmir. तो ये I have no doubt कि बड़ी stable हो जाएंगे, and it will set the path for the assembly elections. अब assembly elections तक हमको इंतजार करना है और देखना है कि किस तरीके से ये elections आगे की तरफ बढ़ेंगे. उसके बाद क्या असर होगा, पॉलिटिकल फॉलोआउट क्या होगा, इसका क्या रेस्टोरेशन ऑफ स्टेटस ऑफ स्टेट होगा कि नहीं, ये सब डायनेमिक्स जम्मू कश्मीर के अंदर है, बड़ी पॉजिटिव डायनेमिक्स. अब उसी को आप बरखलाफ अगर आप देख लीजिए तो पीओके के अंदर बड़ा नेगेटिव सा फॉलोआउट वहां पर हो रहा है. हाल ही में 11 मई को वहां पर एकदम से ऑलमोस्ट लाइक ब्रेड राइट्स, जैसे पेरिस में फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन में हुए थे, वैसे ब्रेड राइट्स हो गए. क्यों? क्या आफ्टर ऑल व्हीट फ्लावर इज नॉट अवेलेबल, आटा अवेलेबल नहीं है, तो लोग क्या खाएंगे उसके ऊपर, क्योंकि उसका प्राइस बढ़ गया था बहुत, और अवेलेबिलिटी भी कम थी, दूसरा पावर रेट्स बहुत बढ़ गए, तीसरा रेगुलेशन ऑफ एनर्जी, डीजल पेट्रोल अंदर भेजना वो भी कम हो गया। तो ये 3 एसेंशियल्स ऑफ लाइफ जो है उनको ऊपर जब इतना असर पड़ा तो ऑब्वियसली पीपल केम इनटू द स्ट्रीट्स। अब जब ये आए तो ये दिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कॉल्ड जॉइंट अवामी एक्शन कमिटी, ये this is the one which led this whole agitation. Everyone in India started reading it as a potential, something which is positive for us. कि वो ये हो गया तो हमारी तरफ बड़ा इसका पॉजिटिव असर आएगा। Not necessarily, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान ने बहुत जल्दबाजी में they don't take risks with the POK. बहुत जल्दबाजी में उन्होंने रेक्टिफाई किया इसको, $83 मिलियन की सब्सिडी पैकेज एकदम से उन्होंने अनाउंस कर दिया पाकिस्तान गवर्नमेंट ने, और साथ में इलेक्ट्रिसिटी और व्हीट के प्राइसेस जो है वो भी कम कर दिए। तो अश्योरेंसेस इमीडिएटली दी और द एजिटेशन सॉर्ट ऑफ वेंट ऑफ द रोड्स। मगर कैजुअलिटीज हुई थी, 3-4 लोग इसमें मरे भी थे, रेंजर्स भी कुछ इंजर्स हुए थे। तो इसका इफेक्ट तो चलता रहता है साइकोलॉजिकली। It is not necessary. I would like to warn all our people who are observing, all Indians who are observing this. This is not necessarily a reflection of being pro-India. ठीक है, इसको अब रियलिटी में हमको देखना पड़ेगा। जब तक कुछ ऐसा एविडेंस हमारे पास नहीं है, you cannot just assume that this is a pro-India thing, right? But अच्छी बात है कि भाई पाकिस्तान के अंदर कुछ इस तरह की का तहलका मचता है, तो nevertheless we always feel very positive about it कि POK जहाँ पर पाकिस्तान has been holding fort, and इधर हमारे तरफ जहाँ पाकिस्तान has been intervening for the better part of 35 years, तो जब कुछ नेगेटिविटी वहाँ होती है तो naturally the Indian public would always look at it more positively. Most of the analysts would also look at it positively. But इसका इमीडिएट फॉल आउट, इमीडिएट इम्पैक्ट मैं समझता हूं बहुत कम है। और आज ही हाल में अगर किसी को इसको अच्छी तरह से देखना है तो आज ये इंडियन एक्सप्रेस में एक पूरा आर्टिकल आया है राजा मोहन साहब का, जो बहुत जाने माने एनालिस्ट है इंडिया के। ही हैज रिटन अ ब्रिलियंट आर्टिकल ऑन POK। मैंने खुद भी लिखा था, मैंने उसको कंपेयर किया था कि देखिए जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में क्या पॉजिटिविटी हुई है आर्टिकल 370 के बाद, 5 साल के बाद, 5 साल के बाद किस तरह का टर्नआउट हो रहा है, वही देखिए बरखलाफ क्या हो रहा है POK के अंदर। ठीक है, तो ये मैंने रिफ्लेक्ट किया था। मगर मेरा कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क उस आर्टिकल में वाज द मेन थिंग व्हिच सेड कि हम डेमोक्रेटिक रूट और इकोनॉमिक रूट के जरिए अगर POK को इंटीग्रेट कर सकते हैं भारत के साथ, तो वो तरीका हमको ढूंढना चाहिए, बिकॉज वो जो है इंटीग्रेशन विल बी अ परमानेंट थिंग। ठीक है, एंड दैट इज आवर एस्पिरेशन ऑलवेज कि जम्मू एंड कश्मीर की पूरी टेरिटरी जो भारत क्लेम करता है, हम एस्पायर करते हैं उसके लिए। हमारा रेजोल्यूशन 1994 का जो जॉइंट पार्लियामेंट्री रेजोल्यूशन है दोनों हाउसेस का, वो क्लियरली कहता है दैट इंडिया विल एस्पायर टू हैव ऑल द टेरिटरीज ऑफ जम्मू एंड कश्मीर रिटर्न बैक टू इंडिया। ये सब हमारे एस्पिरेशनल चीजें हैं वहां पर। मगर जब हम भूल जाते हैं, बहुत दफे बहुत लोग भूल जाते हैं कि काइनेटिक रूट से इसके तरफ कुछ करना इज गोइंग टू क्रिएट ए ट्रिगर व्हिच मे बी अ डिफिकल्ट थिंग टू कंट्रोल विद नो अश्योरेंसेस। और ये याद रखना चाहिए कि जो लोग वार्न कर रहे हैं दैट पाकिस्तान के लिए ये एग्जिस्टेंशियल चीज है, तो even the nuclear aspect has to be kept in mind. तो मैं समझा कि ये मेरे परसेप्शन में मैं समझा दूं, ठीक है, because I look at it very pragmatically और मैं ट्रांसपेरेंट हूं, जो मैं समझता हूं जिसके बारे में I speak it out and tell people, and I was very happy to see कि राजा मोहन साहब ने completely endorsed my point of view.
So, I just want to put across to you, about 10 days back, General Dushyant and we did a similar program on POK, and we said, look, the military option doesn't exist actually. Just doesn't exist. But what we felt was that there is something happening in Pakistan which one shouldn't see only from the prism of POK and or Gilgit-Baltistan, but let's look at it from the Pakistan as a whole. You see, the centrality of Pakistan revolves around Punjab. We all know that, right? And to some extent, Sindh, which is not that fissiparous, right? Because a lot of Pakistan is resident in Sindh, contrary to what many people say. But you look at Balochistan, look at KPK, look at now POK, and even Gilgit-Baltistan, because protests keep occurring, which are not normal. You see a centrifugal force developing around Pakistan, which might not be separatist at this point of time, but it is not. It is going away, and Pakistan does not have the capability in the long run to hold it together for whatever reasons. I mean, I'm making a statement. That can be debated also. So, do you think that this is a thing which will recur, and this is only the first stage of the first stage?
देखिए जो मैं कह रहा था was actually a very extreme and a radical kind of a situation which I was looking at. That's not what India will attempt to do ever.
Yeah.
मैं समझता हूँ pragmatically what you are saying, pragmatically पाकिस्तान को अगर पाकिस्तान स्ट्रेटेजिकली कमजोर है तो हमारे लिए फायदा है, स्ट्रेटेजिकली हमारे लिए फायदा है. Although one can always say good neighborliness, ये वो, we should help Pakistan economically and things like that, जिसने हमको 35 years तक तंग किया है, इंटरवीन किया है हमारे अफेयर में. हम जम्मू कश्मीर के अंदर प्रॉक्सी वॉर, हाइब्रिड प्रॉक्सी वॉर लड़ी है. मैं नहीं समझता कि भारत के लोग चाहेंगे कि हम उनकी मदद करें.
Let me help them. Yeah.
So if we, even if you just stay back from it and only use maybe influence and information as such, that may be just about sufficient to keep the slow fires burning in Pakistan. Oh yes, slow fires Pakistan में जलेंगी काफी हद तक. Unlike India, जहां पर you see 60s में, early 70s में people looked at fissiparous tendencies in India, looked at southern India, looked at northeast India, etc. मगर जब economics became an issue, जब aspiration हो गया to grow, improve your quality of life, lift a large number of people from below poverty level to low middle class level and that kind of a thing, when those aspirations came, things changed. ये पाकिस्तान में नहीं होने वाला है for a long time. So till that time, it's best to keep them on the tenterhooks so that their ability to interfere in our affairs also remains very, very low.
Yeah, I can completely concur with you, sir. सिर्फ हम इतना कर सकते हैं अभी, information war, propaganda, and some kind of a political outreach to keep Pakistan where it is. Concentrate on our own development because that is our mudda, Viksit Bharat by 2047.
Third largest economy.
अगर हम
हमको 18-20 billion dollar economy को देखना है in the next 20 years, then that is we should be single-minded.
that is a focus on that. So our thing is very clear. इसके बारे में अगर सवाल है तो हम लेंगे. भी पाकिस्तान और जम्मू एंड पीओके और गिलगिट बाल्टिस्तान तीनों को उनको अपने हाल में छोड़ दो. जो भी होगा होने दो. Or be alive to the situation, be politically alive to the situation, and militarily keep a distance away, and be happy and focus on our development. So यहाँ ये छोड़ देते हैं. So I think the most important thing which happened and which many people are underrating is this death of President Raisi in Iran. Right? It affects the West Asian politics. It affects trade. It affects China, it affects Russia, it affects us, it affects the nuclear equation here, and many, 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 many things. Everyone feels कि भाई ये हो गया तो एक नया आ जाएगा तो मामला ठंडा हो जाएगा. But I think it's more complex, just as we were speaking. And just before this, Hasnain was saying, look, I've come prepared fully for Iran because that's something which is very complex which is coming out. So, I completely agree with your initial assessment. Unless we understand this complexity called Iran and the development which has taken place, I think we'll be completely out of the game. Over to you, sir.
थैंक यू वेरी मच एंड फॉर आवर व्यूअर्स लेट मी टेल यू ये हमारा आज का ये जो है आई थिंक द कोर इशू हियर इज एक्चुअली ईरान क्योंकि एक इवेंट से बहुत चीजें हो सकती हैं जियोपॉलिटिक्स के अंदर और ये दिस पर्टिकुलर इवेंट एक्चुअली रिफ्लेक्ट्स दैट देखिए वी हैव सीन व्हाट द टेंशंस बिटवीन इजराइल एंड ईरान हैव बीन ओवर द लास्ट 2.5 months और सो अभी ठंडा पड़ा है कुछ हद तक गाजा में लड़ाई जबरदस्त चल रही है और उसके बीच में एकदम से यू फाइंड कि अजरबैजान और ईरान के बीच में एक जो समझौता था एक डैम को बनाने का और उसको फिर इनॉग्रेट करने के लिए ईरानियन प्रेसिडेंट को वहां उन्होंने न्योता दिया और वो गए एंड हिज helicopter convoy 2 helicopters reached back and the third in which he was traveling died crashed and he and his entourage all died which includes Hossein Amir Abdullah in the foreign minister. He is also
Foreign
he
ministers.
also died. He also died in that. तो अब क्वेश्चन बनता है एक पहला सवाल तो ये है जो सबके दिमाग में है कि is this a crash, just a technical error, something which has happened, or is this a assassination? No one has come out with any evidence today, but people have sent me mails, sent me WhatsApp messages, etc., alleging that possibly a directed energy weapon could have been used. It could have been a directed energy weapon from some source somewhere, from where it has been sent up to a drone, and from a drone has been directed onto a flying helicopter. ये जरा है तो बड़ा stretched out kind of a rationale, but you cannot rule it out ever. I mean, ये नहीं कि बिल्कुल ही rule out कर दे. 10% chance can always be there because ये directed energy weapons के ऊपर आजकल I spoke last time also in the issue on the subject of disaster warfare कि the Chinese possibly could have used directed energy weapons. This even that we are looking at the possibilities. तो ये एक चीज है इसके अंदर. The other very interesting issue is that succession क्या होगा इसका. Now, when you start researching on the succession part of it, you realize कि ईरान का सिस्टम क्या है. Iran has to the president has to be elected by the people within 50 days. Within 50 days, candidates उसके लिए जो होते हैं, they can apply and they can be nominated. मगर there's a 12-member guardian council which scrutinizes this. ठीक है. और एक दफे पहले even in the case of bringing someone like Ibrahim Raisi to power, they actually rejected a large number of possible runners who could have been probably elected. So the Guardian Council is, of course, the baby of the Supreme Leader. जो Supreme Leader चाहते हैं वो नॉर्मली होता है क्योंकि 6 मेंबर जो है 12 मेंबर कमेटी के 6 मेंबर सुप्रीम लीडर नॉमिनेट करते हैं और 6 मेंबर जो है वो जुडिशरी मेंबर करती है, which means the Chief Justice nominates 6 members. So that is where is supposed to be the balance between them. अब सुनने में ये आया है कि ये उनके प्रोटेजी थे. Ibrahim Raisi was the protege of Ali Khamenei. Ali Khamenei is 85 years old. And वो चाह रहे थे कि and by the way he's down with prostate cancer, may not last very long. So he has probably taken this as an opportunity. क्या मालूम इस opportunity create की है कि opportunity ली है ये कि this is the time to actually affect a possible change in the supreme leader also. And this is the time he's looking for promoting his own son Mujtaba as a I think he's 58 years old as a potential supreme leader. He is Mujtaba is just a cleric in Qom is that famous school of jurisprudence, and nothing. He has no qualification or anything like that. मगर ये सोच विचार हो रहा है that he may possibly be looking at that. President अभी उन्होंने वाइस प्रेसिडेंट को तो नॉमिनेट कर दिया है, मोहम्मद मुखबिर को उन्होंने नॉमिनेट कर दिया जो 50 दिन तक रहेंगे और 50 दिन के अंदर ये इलेक्शन होना है. सो वी डू नॉट नो, देयर इज नो फिंगर बीइंग पॉइंटेड एट एनी पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल एट द मोमेंट कि ये कौन बन सकता है, बट ऑब्वियसली इट विल बी द चॉइस ऑफ Ali Khamenei himself. This is also the time when a lot of people are looking at will there be a dilution in the overall radical approach of the supreme leader and the council as such, कि इसमें कुछ क्या dilution होगा कि और ज्यादा बढ़ोतरी होगी. We have seen in the last 2 years Ali Khamenei has been actually bolstering the radical approach, the control over the people as such. We've seen what has happened a year and a half ago with the women's agitation which took place on this famous woman. What was her name? She was called
Amini.
Amini. Yeah, you're right.
She's Amini.
Her death in custody, which led to mass-scale agitation, and the Women's Council is ready. Those women organizations are ready to agitate again. So it needs a spark, it needs leadership. Now, these are moments, these are very important moments. And obviously, when you have enemies around the world, then they are not going to sit quiet. So obviously, Israel's eyes are on this. The Americans are viewing it. They may be viewing it as a golden opportunity to change things around, to bring about a leadership. To bring about a leadership which is more pliable, something which will perhaps listen to what the US has to say, perhaps agree to forego the complete nuclear program. That's the ultimate aim of the United States. The nuclear program wo kisi na kisi tarah uska khatma kiya jaye. So these are the dynamics which have come into it. Same time, there are contenders for presidency now. A whole list of organizations, including the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. ठीक है, Revolutionary Guard IRGC जो है, जिसकी Quds Force है, जिसके सुलेमानी हेड थे, और Quds Force itself is a very important organization which is essentially there for proxy, for fighting proxies all over the Middle East. Control of proxies, fighting expeditionary operations on behalf of Iran. It's not the Iranian army which does this. This is all done by the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, of which the Quds Force is such an important element. So yes, they're all throwing in their hats into the ring, and it may just happen that one of these kind of people may be picked up. But all ultimately depends on Ali Khamenei. The current constitution, going by current dynamics, it is Ali Khamenei who will be the main person who will approve who has to run for president. Now, the thing is that last time when Raisi was elected also, it was the lowest turnout in terms of the electorate. 49% of the whole of Iranian electorate, 27% of Tehran turned up. That is all with number of people who actually came. So the level of interest in this kind of thing is also much lower, because people said this is an inevitable thing. This will be whoever has to manipulate it. So everything is in the cauldron at the moment. And on the other side, you have the Israel war, Gaza war going on at the same time. At this stage, the next 50 days, how will Iran handle this? This is a very crucial time for them. Are they going to go back to confrontation? A new leader may probably be looking to show a muscular approach to this entire thing, and you may just find it, although without the directions of Ali Khamenei, nothing will actually move. So this is the situation at the moment. The new foreign minister has also been appointed. He is also essentially a negotiator, nuclear negotiator, and I think his name is Ali Bagheri. He is the foreign minister at the moment. Reasonably experienced, but not to the extent that the previous regime was. So now the dynamics are going to be very, very challenging. How to handle Israel, how to handle the United States, how to look at Saudi Arabia and the dynamics which are emerging at the moment because of all that is happening in the Middle East. So the next 50 days are going to be very interesting, and they should be under our observation.
Thank you, sir. I think that was a first-class primer, because I have some important questions for you on this. Because like you said, and I agree with you, this is the crux of the problem. अब सब मैप को देखिए, ईरान सेंटर में है. ईरान में जो भी हो रहा है वो वेस्ट एशिया, इजराइल, सऊदी अरेबिया, हौतीस, रेड सी, स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज, सबके ऊपर असर पड़ेगा. Similarly, whatever happens in Iran affects the Ukraine-Russia war. Please remember, Russia is becoming more important to, sorry, Iran is becoming more important to Russia by virtue of giving it ammunition and drones and all kinds of support. Iran is also important to China for many issues, जिसके बारे में हमने बात किया with General Raj Shukla, and how China, Russia, Iran, and Korea are rising against you know USA. Whatever happens in Iran affects Pakistan also, and whatever happens in Pakistan affects us. For us, ईरान इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्योंकि अभी अभी हमने उनके साथ 10 साल के लिए चबहार पोर्ट के लिए हमने डील भी किया है. अगर आप ये सब देखोगे तो ईरान इज द हब टुडे ऑफ major politics in not only West Asia, I think even in our part of the country, in the subcontinent, right? Now, if that be so, sir, and 50 days is what the time is, for the next 50 days, Iran will be largely internally looking. And also in the end of 50 days, there's no clear indication that who will come out because, it's a situation which is thrust upon them. And there is some internal rift as to who will come, whether Mojtaba will be made or not made, that is one issue. Whether Mojtaba, even if he is made or not made, despite objections internally, the street might not agree to it because there are a lot of issues. Those, like you said, the West and others like Israel and all, might see this as an opportunity to create more problems for Iran. In my assessment, for the next 40, 50 days, and maybe even beyond, if a new leader comes in, you can't assume that Iran is going to be stable. I visualize a certain amount of political instability within Iran. It might not be very obvious, but there'll be undercurrent. And that will pull Iran back. And it is bound to have an effect on the three H's, that is Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas, and the effect on the Gaza war and a lot of other things. So I think we are in for a sort of a complicated situation going ahead. And how do you see this panning out? I mean, and what is there for it in India?
देखिए, I'm very tempted to agree with you completely. Very, very tempted. That's my reading also largely. But somewhere a tiny bird tells me in my ear that Iran, after having achieved all this, you see, it is still under Ali Khamenei. Ali Khamenei's authority has not really eroded as such. If I was in Ali Khamenei's place, perhaps I would detach the appointment, so-called election, was actually an appointment of the supreme leader from that of the president. These two things together will derail Iran completely. You know, you suddenly have a new supreme leader and you have a new president and you have a new foreign minister. Can you imagine? I mean, I agree about a purely democratic transition as it happens in India. अगर ऐसा हो, तो naturally there is India never has a problem of handling a thing like this. मगर इस तरह की चीज जहाँ पर you have a personalized system जिसके अंदर true democracy really doesn't exist. You throw out who you want and you accept who you want to bring in, etc. When you bring all this, it leads to even more turbulence. तो मैं समझता हूँ कि I think he may just forego the possibility and the temptation of bringing in Mujtaba at this time. एक इंटरेस्टिंग चीज इसमें मैं also आपको याद दिला दूं कि all this time there was a move afoot कि the next supreme leader may be Raisi himself. If that Raisi could probably have replaced Khamenei, but Khamenei was very keen to have Mujtaba. तो क्या इसमें कोई दाल में काला है? That issue also just looked at it. क्या इसमें कोई दाल में काला है? That you have created this opportunity for it. So that this is only for suspicious minds sometimes to look at it in geopolitics.
नहीं, sir.
But to come back to the main issue, I don't think they are going to look at the possibility of the president of electing the president and the supreme leader together, because they will realize all that what you have said. कि इसके साथ साथ the control that they have established over the Middle East, from Houthis to the Persian Gulf to the Levant area and places like that, ये कंट्रोल अगर खोया भी इन्होंने तो ईरान की पोजीशन बड़ी अनटेनेबल हो जाएगी.
ईरान के पोजीशन ही नहीं सर, रशिया का पोजीशन अनटेनेबल हो जाएगा इस इलाके में.
जो भी मतलब
चाइना,
ईरान
sorry. So, yeah. Well, and so the second part of that question, which with this thing, what should our approach be to this whole problem? Because हमने तो mourning कर दिया एक दिन का, and we have stood by Iran, so to say, and we have our interest in Chabahar, which has just started. Though I personally don't feel that Chabahar, that agreement will fall through. It will go through because this is just after all the Chabahar agreement were actually already existing. We were renewing it every year. Now instead of renewing it every year, we are doing it for 10 years.
Absolutely.
So what should our whole approach be? Because overall, sir, आप मानेंगे कि we need Iran on our side.
Wait, देखो, I've been to Iran. I've been to Tehran, and I can assure you. I always felt there was a perception I sort of sensed in Tehran. They love the Indian people. देखिए, आप किसी भी दुकान में चल जाइए, कहीं चले जाइए, आप बताइए. मैं, when I tell them I'm an Indian Muslim, people actually came and even kissed my hands sometimes. ठीक है, जब मैंने बताया कि I'm so and so, my name is so and so, so people came and kissed my hands even. So India has this place where we are very respected there. ये चाबहार के ऊपर ये प्रॉब्लम हो रहा था काफी दिनों से. Iran has always felt about India only one thing, which I sensed from, and they actually stated it in all the meetings that we had with them. उन्होंने सीधा कह दिया कि आप कहते हैं कि ईरान और इंडिया के बीच में सिविलाइजेशनल रिलेशनशिप है. You say our linkages are civilizational, they are not just geopolitical, they are civilizational. But you do not live up to proving that. This was a very interesting issue which we discussed it out. क्या मतलब है इसका? क्योंकि I personally brought it out to them to say that we are caught between the devil and the deep sea. क्योंकि हमारा तो रिलेशनशिप आपके साथ भी अच्छा है, अमेरिका के साथ भी अच्छा है, रशिया के साथ भी अच्छा है, तो हम तो बीच में है कहीं पर. आपको हमारे बारे में इस फिक्र नहीं करनी चाहिए. चाबहार को हमारा जो इंटरेस्ट है चाबहार में, it will always be there because of our access to Central Asia, which is required, our access to the North-South corridor, which most people forget. कि ये मॉस्को पहुंचने के लिए भारत को, अगर India's trade with Russia goes via a round the world route, अगर चाबहार आपके पास है, फैसिलिटीज आपके पास पूरी हैं, आप सीधा गुजरात से लीजिए, अपने पोर्ट से जो कुछ सामान उठाना है, सीधा चाबहार से goes by rail. Ultimately the rail link will come, rail, and go up to the north-south corridor. और वहां से जो है सब कुछ जो है रोड से भी जा सकता है, रेल से भी जा सकता है, right up to Moscow. That is the shortest route. Of course, it's not a shipping route. And the shipping route यहाँ से लेके चाबहार तक shipping route है. उसके बाद is a rail route, right? But that is a very, very important linkage which we must maintain and retain in our geopolitical interest. तो हमारा स्टांस तो ये होना चाहिए कि ये आपका अंदरूनी मामला है. भाई आप इलेक्शन कर रहे हैं, आप यूर डेमोक्रेसी, आपको जिस तरह की डेमोक्रेसी चाहिए आप कर रहे हैं. वी आर नॉट वन ऑफ दोज, वी आर नॉट लाइक द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स कि भाई हम वर्ल्ड पुलिसमैन है और वी आर डिक्टेटिंग टू यू द टाइप ऑफ लिबरल डेमोक्रेसी यू नीड टू हैव, एंड अनलेस यू हैव दैट लिबरल डेमोक्रेसी वी विल हैव नो रिलेशनशिप विद यू. वी आर नॉट सेइंग ऑल दैट. हम तो सिर्फ इतना कह रहे हैं कि भाई हमारा इंटरेस्ट है आपके साथ लिंकेज रखना. चाबहार से हमारा बहुत लगाव है और हम समझते हैं कि वी आर इन सपोर्ट ऑफ यू, वी आर इन सपोर्ट ऑफ यू, वी आर इन सपोर्ट ऑफ द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स. दोनों, इजराइल के साथ भी अगर हम कुछ कर सकते हैं टू हेल्प यू ओवरकम योर प्रॉब्लम्स, देन वी आर ऑलवेज रेडी. आई थिंक इंडिया हैज हैंडल्ड ईरान रीजनेबली वेल. मैं नहीं समझता हूं कि we have sort of neglected them or anything like that. If you remember, year and a half ago, all the access which was being made to Moscow was via Tehran. Jaishankar Sahab went by that. Our Raksha Mantri ji went by that, both times going, having long meetings with the foreign minister, having long meetings with the defense minister, पूरे geopolitical issues discuss करके तब आए वापस. तो I think the relationship is on even keel and we should try and maintain that. इसमें कोई हमको दखलंदाजी नहीं करनी चाहिए.
Fine, sir. So we'll leave this as it is. Of course, one other point is that through Chabahar you get access into Afghanistan also.
Also, of course,
Through
हमने
Zahedan and
इतना बहुत सा चावल और आटा भेजा है वहाँ पर.
वो उधर से, right? And that's there. So Iran is something which is very important हमारे लिए, और वहाँ how to help Iran get over its crisis. In whatever, largely they will not need our help, but whatever we can give, we should give to stabilize the situation. So then we'll go to Gaza, where something very funny is happening, and I wouldn't say funny. It's a sad situation, and it's quite confusing, and it's going in all the wrong directions. And that's my opening statement on what's happening in Gaza. All to you, sir.
भाई देखिए, इस अनफॉर्चुनेट के साथ साथ इलेक्शन ये अमेरिका में हो रहा है. ये अमेरिकन इलेक्शन नहीं होता तो शायद कुछ चीजें बदल सकती थी यहाँ पर. The dynamics are different because of that. And Biden's hands are absolutely tied. He knows he is losing at the hustings. ऑलरेडी जो है डिसएडवांटेज में है, वो डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के पीछे है कुछ जगहों पर, बाकी ज्यादातर जो कमेंट्रीज आ रही हैं. एंड ही कैन नॉट अफोर्ड टू sort of take too much action against the agitators from the universities. हालांकि I just heard yesterday a statement being made out to all the immigrants, many immigrants who are involved in these agitations, being told very clearly that you are here for a purpose to study, and if you don't, if you participate in these kind of things, then you can just be sent back. Okay? So they are threatening a lot of people to try and curtail these university agitations to pro-Palestinian agitations हो रहे हैं. Now these pro-Palestinian agitations have primarily taken place because of the overreach. You know, if this war had ended in a month's time, Hamas defeated, nothing would have happened. It would be an expected thing that by 7th October, what Hamas did to Israel was dastardly, and what the Israelis did over a period of month or so was a payback. But अब जब ये छठा महीना हो गया, 7वां महीना हो रहा है, और Israel expects that they are going to win this war, then I think any military mind like ours will tell them, if we have been through this enough, we know it, हमें मत समझाइए ये, इस तरह की लड़ाई जो है इस तरीके से नहीं जीती जाती. Right? If you think you can kill the last Hamas terrorist and win the war, put your flag up and say, I won the war, that things don't happen that way. You'll have to fight this very differently. And you have to accept that this is going to be a long fight. Okay? I still continue to say that if you have not prepared yourself for it, I mean, the portents were all there. दूसरा, हमास के पास ये सब हथियार आए कहां से, इतनी सीमेंट कहां से आई, इतने टनल कैसे बने, पूरा
तो इजराइल से
पूरी खोस लाइन छोड़ दिया आपने. उसके बाद अब आप पूरे सिविलियंस के ऊपर अत्याचार करके and you want to defeat Hamas. Can't happen that way. I would have been happiest of a small war, short, sweet, this thing, and impactful. Get the Hamas leadership. I thought they are very capable of doing it. Israel is very capable of carrying out that kind of surgical strikes. Get the leadership, but they're not being able to do it. 6 महीने से. अगर 6 महीने नहीं किया तो I don't know whether they'll be able to do it in Rafah and places like that. Beyond this, बड़ा मुश्किल है. The hostages are still with them. So there is no end to this war. And Netanyahu, we don't know what is going to happen to him. उनके खिलाफ तो वारंट भी निकला हुआ है from the International Court of Justice. ICJ ने भी अपना वो निकाला हुआ है against the Hamas and against the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister both. So although Israel is not a member of the ICJ as such, तो ये situation, untenable situation, ये चलती जा रही है. और ये इसमें मुझे नहीं लगता कि कुछ चेंज आने वाला है unless the United States decides. अब ये छोटे डिसीजन के, we have withheld the missiles which were to reach Israel. I don't think that is going to have a major effect on decision making by Netanyahu. Right? He must have still got his reserves. They won't be going to war without their reserves. But yes, a little stricter thing to calibrate the pressure on Israel may be able to help stopping them from doing too much. Secondly, humanitarian aid तो जाने दो अंदर, temporary ceasefire के लिए agree करो. That of course the Israelis can justify it कि a temporary ceasefire means refurbishment of Hamas. वो इतना तेल, इतना पानी, इतना खाना पानी पीना, lots of warlike material under the garb of humanitarian aid will go in. It's inevitable. It does happen that. So yeah, that is why the situation है ना, war situation is beyond understanding at the moment, and it could continue like this till the end of the year. When you have something more decided, if Trump comes to power, then that support for Israel continues. The kinetic thing continues. What people cannot understand around the world, perhaps many people in India who I discussed this with, can't imagine this, that the world put together cannot stop a thing like this. The United Nations, right? The US has vetoed it so many times. In the beginning of the later they abstained from it. तो ये सिचुएशन सुधरने वाली नहीं है immediately. Suffering of the Palestinians is going to continue. I mean, this can continue forever. अगर आप देखें तो if the world community, international community does not have that humanitarian kind of a feeling for the people of Palestine, we तो चल सकती है forever. How does it affect? It's not affecting us in any way. It's not affecting any other country around the world. It affects the people. It's only a question of humanity. उसको देख.
So we are going to see this Gaza war, I'll call it the Gaza, or the Israel-Hamas war, continues. And when this continues, you're going to have more humanitarian problems than before. And recovery from these humanitarian problems, even if tomorrow the military action stops, is going to take 5 to 10 years. That's a minimum. It's not going to be easy to this thing. And if it's going to take that time for recovery and rebuilding and resettling and all that in that 42-kilometer strip, we are going to see more sporadic militancy coming up. It will not go down. Because if I were a normal Gaza resident, and if I see my house destroyed and if I see my near and dear ones gone, I will also become a militant. It's natural human thing. And I will also search for the next bag of cement during reconstruction, not only to build a house, but to build a tunnel also. So this is going to recur, and I don't see a thing coming up. So we will have to live with this for a...
What we have to remember is that you have created not one generation, but a couple of generations ahead.
Generations, yes.
ये लड़ाई बंद नहीं होनी है. ऐसे.
लड़ाई बंद नहीं होगी. In fact, sir, today I read an article in Washington Post, very interesting article. It was though far-fetched, where he says what's happened in Iran and what's happening in Israel could lead to undermining both these countries completely if things go awry, right? And he's drawn a interrelationship between the two. And Israel, probably, I don't agree with him what he spoke of Iran, because that's a natural American bent of mine to speak everything against Iran. But Israel is in a tinderbox of its own. And ultimately we might see the day when Israel faces the day of reckoning. It's not very far. Notwithstanding everyone's...
One thing we have to keep in mind, Jan Shankar, is that will a change in leadership in Israel make a difference?
Israel, yeah, make a difference.
Will it make a difference?
For the first time, because for the first time I'm seeing even the war cabinet wavering and cracks coming up, and there's going to be interesting times ahead. It's not the end of the day for them, sir. So we'll next move to the two other hotspots. We'll first touch Russia, and then we'll touch upon Taiwan. I want you to be, focus on both these in the light of the China, Putin Xi Jinping meet. And I want to, everyone knows they met, they've agreed on a long-term relationship. They want to overturn, be a formidable axis against USA, set up their alternate global system. They've promised each other the moon in terms of military and economic aid, vagara, vagara, vagara. But one thing I wanted to point out in 2019, before the Winter Olympics, when Putin met Xi Jinping, the deal was about a no limits friendship. In this meet, that no limits has not come up anywhere. So it's not, this friendship has limits. In view of this, I would like you to first comment on Ukraine, where a new Russian offensive has started in the north, and then on Taiwan, where a new president has come in. All yourself, you can take it whichever way you want.
Okay. Briefly, not too much. So we will
Yeah, not too much. Well,
speak
yeah.
on this. You see, this the meeting of Xi Jinping and President Putin. We have some very good observations, no doubt, made by you. It didn't occur to me the way you looked at it. I agree. I tend to agree with you. What China is always afraid about in its relationship with Russia is the potential of sanctions on China. You see, the Chinese economy is not a standalone economy, as we all understand.
Yeah, it's a dependent economy, sir.
It's a dependent economy, and it's hugely dependent on the United States. After all, much of the investments are there. So, whatever they do is done gingerly. At that time, they declared, no doubt, no limits relationship,
No limits.
etc. At this moment, they may just be holding back because of this. They may be holding back because of this. They have to sort of make cudgels on behalf of Russia, because Russia is their most important ally at the moment. This, the aspect of oil, economy, things like that. Lots and lots of things they depend on Russia. Also, they want Russia on their side, primarily because in international competition they can't afford to see Russia going anywhere else. They would want it to be with them. So this relationship will continue to build, but it will never become a very transformational kind of a relationship. I don't see a very military to military kind of relationship emerging between Russia and China for some time. Even now, there is no transparent declaration of military support and military aid. Right? I'm sure a lot of ammunition is flowing, lots of other things hardware is flowing into Russia, but not transparently. It's all probably happening under the table at the moment. Because the moment you see this movement of hardware here and there, sanctions are going to come on China in a very big way. That's one aspect to remember. The second thing, in Ukraine, the offensive which has taken place from the north, now this is almost timed with the President Biden's $1 package which has been given out to US allies, $8 billion to Taiwan, $26 billion to Israel, and the 61 billion to Ukraine. So now,
Ukraine.
much of it is primarily, of course, plow back into the US economy, because this has been under negotiation in the legislature for quite some time. It has taken a fair amount of time. In this amount of time, the American defense industry has gone and manufactured all the items, all the equipment which is required to be flown into or shipped to Ukraine. So everything is ready to go. The moment that $61 billion was announced, everything was ready to go. And that is just around the time when the Russian offensive has also started. There is no doubt that the Ukrainians, although Zelensky is announcing from time to time that he has no shortages and this and that, he himself said many times that there was a huge shortage of ammunition before, and then today is none of the units of mine are without ammunition. This is all a lot of bravado which is being spoken, but I think the supply chain has yet to really materialize in terms of the availability of ammunition at this time. Kharkiv what the Russians are doing, they're not trying to bring about a mass scale counteroffensive through the whole of Donbass to try and lean on to the Dnieper River. They are trying it at an important uh, nodal center, a big urban center such as Kharkiv. Kharkiv, if you remember, also had a large number of
It's to the
Yugoslav
north.
who were stuck there 2 years ago, and we had launched a lot of lifts into Russia, into Belarus actually, to get these people out, to get our students out there to walk 20, 25 kilometers, most of them, to come out of Kharkiv and come to Belarus, come to Russia, actually, Russian territory, and from there we lifted from there. So there is no guarantee of success in this. I don't think there's a huge guarantee as such. Even if Kharkiv falls, there is still enough around. Still enough around. But it will be a psychological blow. A major urban center, you're very well aware, moment
Yeah.
a major urban center falls in any warlike situation, in a reasonably elongated war of this kind, तो उसमें ऑटोमेटिकली साइकोलॉजिकल इम्पैक्ट बहुत होता है डिफेंडर के ऊपर. मुझे नहीं लगता कि यूक्रेन इज इन अ पोजीशन टू डू एनी काउंटर ऑफेंसिव इन एनी टाइम इन द नियर फ्यूचर. तो ये अगर ये लड़ाई रुकती नहीं है और रुकेगी भी नहीं अभी, दिस विल बिकम अ स्लॉगिंग मैच. ये खारकिव में भी स्लॉगिंग मैच चलता रहेगा. आई डू नॉट फोरसी कि एक इम्पैक्टफुल काइंड ऑफ अ मिलिट्री operation of the kind which can be decisive will take place as such. I don't think the Russians have the capability to do also at the moment, although their supply lines are reasonably much better than what they were in the past. So ये situation अभी चलती रहेगी. From the European side, the pushback is there, the support is there, although lots and lots of people are much against the war as such. But so far, the Americans have been able to hold forth. NATO has had its control over all this. But I'm just looking at stamina. क्या does Europe have the stamina to continue this thing like this? क्या मतलब पूरा फोकस आपका सिर्फ डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री के ऊपर और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के ऊपर हुआ कि आप यूक्रेन के पास भेजते रहिए टू प्रिवेंट द इंग्रेस ऑफ रशिया? आई थिंक a stage will come जब इसके ऊपर पुशबैक, यूरोप से पुशबैक होगा to America. Okay, enough is enough, we better negotiate. That is the time when it will become very crucial कि negotiation कैसे होगा, किस तरह से होगा, सीज फायर के साथ होगा, बिना सीज फायर के साथ होगा, किस तरह की चीज होगी. A very very crucial thing in this whole thing is cease fire. I don't foresee कि ये होने वाली है, but it must happen in the near future.
Yeah, it should happen. So there's no doubt because this war can't be interminable without any objective being reached. And
देखिए,
do
हमने
you
दोनों, हमने
foresee
गाजा की भी बात की, हमने गाजा की बात की और यूक्रेन की बात की. Both seem to be interminable.
interminable? So let's get to the third hotspot, which is just with the in Taiwan.
I prefer that you initiated this time.
Yeah, so I'll say so. You see, it's when I say talk of Taiwan, it is not Taiwan alone. Have a look at Taiwan. I did say Taiwan. Taiwan में क्या है कि 20th, the new president William Lai Ching-te has just taken over. What did he say in his opening speech? Whatever he said, okay, we should live as good countries, neighbors, tourism, and all that. But the underlying thing is, he says, look, Taiwan is a different country, China is a different country. He very clearly spelled it out. And of course, China has reacted badly to it. But at this point of time, having seen what is happening in Ukraine, having seen what is happening in Gaza, there is a very clear, palpable clarity, which at least I have, and I think it's there in China also, that they don't want to go and take over Taiwan. And their military moves towards Taiwan have, gone down a bit. But what is interesting, sir, is in the South China Sea, around Spratlys, Philippines, there's something going on. And for the past about 2 months, increasingly, they've been, their patrol boats clashing against each other, water cannons being fired, in all those islands at Ayungin and all that, the second Thomas Shoal, there are a lot of things going on. US has done a firing exercise along with Australia and Philippines in this area. And this place has become a hotspot. What I'd like to put out and this is there is no war. War is not imminent here, but the heat out of the spot is increasing by the days. What I've seen in the past, 5 6 months, I've been tracking all the events here. Is that slowly it is escalating, and it is escalating that now Japan is also somewhere in the equation because the islands above Taiwan, the Okinawa chain, the lower end islands are all today golf courses have been converted into air defense bases. So this place is becoming hot with the way China is. And I see this also increasing as we go along, but it will keep simmering on the actual, it will not be a kinetic war. There'll be a lot of information warfare, there'll be a lot of cognitive war, there'll be a lot of hybrid gray zone activity, air defense violations, naval blockades, all that will go on, but it's going to go on. So what I'm going to come to, sir, and what I'd like you to comment is, we're going to have these three conflicts going. We're going to have these three conflicts going: Ukraine, Gaza, and Taiwan, South China Sea going, at least for the rest of the year without anything. So where does that leave us, and what should our outlook be in the scope of this larger thing, we see? That's
Okay,
what we
thank you.
need to
Thank
focus
you.
on.
I largely agree with your assessment, and very, very good assessment that you have made. Maybe I'll just add a few things to it and
Yes, sir,
explain.
please, sir.
देखिए एक तो let me go back to this issue which you described about the series of events taking place around Taiwan, into Southeast Asia, ASEAN countries, etc. This is very typical Chinese that we all understand it. Uh, China has been following wolf warrior diplomacy. Much of this is to do with wolf warrior diplomacy. If you look at what happened in April 2020 on the line of actual control in Ladakh, was also something very similar. Everything
Yes,
short
sir.
of war. Everything short of war. This is China's uh, strategy, which has been followed since 1990, I would say. If you remember 1990, they were the ones who observed the Gulf War one, took out the lessons, extracted the lessons, came out with war under informationized conditions, the doctrine. By 2003, they developed that famous three warfare strategy. All this, everyone thought that this is the only thing, that this is the only way China will fight a war, not realizing that PLA was arming itself to the teeth, demonstrating its capability, which continues to do in the depth areas of Ladakh, beyond in Tibet, and projecting to us and showing us what they are capable of if they fight with us. But at the same time, following the principle of wolf warrior diplomacy, taking it up to a certain point, withdrawing from there, no war, creating a no war, no peace situation, and typically a gray zone. That's the term which we always come back to, a gray zone. I don't foresee that this is going to change anytime in the future. The Chinese are not confident of militarily taking Taiwan. Obviously, they're not. I mean, we have debated this many times in many, many discussions. Uh, if they can stave off the US from coming into here, into the Indo Pacific, and concentrating and focusing, which is what was imminent after Afghanistan, if Ukraine had not happened, if the Hamas war had not happened, this
What had
was
not happened.
happening. So all those events which are going on there and what's happening in Iran, the nuclearization of Iran, etc., actually keeping US attention away, and it's keeping US focus away from there. Otherwise, perhaps even the redeployment, we are looking at, the reconfiguration of the American strategic focus and strategic setup. This whole term which Barack Obama used to use,
Pivot.
that called pivot to Asia,
Pivot
the
to
other side.
Asia.
Asia. That was the term which he used to do so frequently. So they are continuing that at the moment, preparing themselves that should this happen tomorrow, none of these countries should continue feeling the Chinese pressure, which is something what they tried with us in April 2020. That is exactly what they want to continue doing with these various ASEAN countries out here, to make sure that they know what is Chinese capability and what they can actually work against them. This is very important. Second thing, as far as India is concerned, in the vortex of Ukraine, POK, Gaza, and Taiwan, and Iran, and the entire melting pot out here, we seem to be reasonably safe at the moment, right? Attention is away from our borders at most places. If you see our western border, attention is reasonably staved off. Northern border, to some extent, also. This is the aspirational times. I would say we should continue building ourselves economically. Make sure that when the new government comes in after 4th of June, there should be no. I hope everything is stable, everything is good. That's exactly what we are hoping for. Because if you are looking to be the third largest economy, if you are looking to be absolutely stable in our future outlook and approach, then you can't afford to get stuck in conflicts. All the people who talk about POK and things like that, they should just remember, अगर आपका एस्पिरेशन है कि भारत को थर्ड लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी $20 ट्रिलियन बनना है एक दिन, तो ये चीजें आप भूल जाइए. We must uplift our people below poverty lines, lower middle class में उनको ले जाइए, अपने स्टॉक मार्केट्स को खूब बढ़ाइए, बढ़ावा दीजिए, अपना एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन को कायम रखिए अपना पूरा, and make sure that you continue with your startups and your IT innovations and things like that. This is just the time for India to do all this. Don't get stuck into the geopolitics of all this which is happening around. Of course, keep an eye on everything, because everything has an interest. Here, as an emerging power, already a middle power, our eyes need to be open to all potential threats. What can happen? We are being sought by the United States, we're being sought by Russia. Our relationship with Russia must not erode under any circumstance. Whatever the Sino-Russian relationship may be, whatever camp someone may think that India is a part of certain camps, our relationship with Russia should not change. It's a very, very important relationship for us, right? Our relationship with Israel must continue to be on even keel, completely. With Iran, with Chabahar, our outreach into Central Asia must continue. This is wishful thinking, virtually. That in every direction, we have got our interests intact. We must continue playing for them. That is what is in our interest.
Thank you, sir. I think we've covered a huge canvas, a very good canvas with that. Look, India should focus on what it needs to do to achieve Viksit Bharat and not get involved with all these conflicts. And we are in a sweet spot away from all these, not being affected. And to a large extent, if China is busy in South China Sea and in Taiwan, that much lesser focus on us, which is there actually. Right. And anyway, we'll leave it at that. I'll take a few questions now. I'll not take too many, sir, because we've covered a lot of time.
Please take Colonel Nadeem Arshad's question.